Well, hello everyone. Good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is my great honor on behalf of the faculty of the Basic Program of Liberal Education for Adults to congratulate our graduating class of 2025. I want to give a special welcome to all of the family and friends who've joined us. I am delighted that you have come to this gorgeous campus to celebrate our graduates. Very shortly, I will call the graduates up one at a time to receive their certificates, but I do not want you, family and friends, to leave today without receiving some recognition as well. I'm sure the graduates are all mindful that over these last 4 years, you have made your own contributions to their liberal education. They have made our community livelier, friendlier, wiser, and more generous, but only because you have shared them with us. You may have seen them disappear into their books for a number of hours each week, and again into their virtual classrooms. You may have noticed subtle changes in their interests, their tastes, and their opinions as they've shuttled between the world we all inhabit and the many worlds of our authors. You may have learned far more from them about 5th century Athens than you ever thought you would. Perhaps you were watching the news and heard them say something like, de Tocqueville knew about all of this. Perhaps you were lucky enough to see their faces light up, as I and their instructors have so many times over the last 4 years, while they spoke passionately about Nietzsche or Elizabeth Bennet or the Pythagorean theorem. Not so much the Pythagorean theorem? All right. We have a peanut gallery here today. This is what happens when you don't have mute buttons. I'm sure you all knew that in 2025, they would complete their 4 years in the basic program's core sequence and become alumni of the University of Chicago. But you might not have known that this is no ordinary graduation ceremony, because we are not done with them. We are not here to send them away from our community, but to invite them deeper into it. Of course, we are also here to recognize their achievement, whose value can be measured in any number of ways, by its rarity, by the great difficulty involved, just ask them about Aristotle's physics or Descartes' third meditation, by the personal and intellectual growth afforded by reading great books and discussing them with other thoughtful readers, by the unique manner in which this work enables us to know one another, to bond with one another, and to know ourselves. But among the many reasons that we call it the basic program is that the 4-year sequence, at its heart, serves as a basis for further liberal education. All of the books our graduates have read together will deepen every time they revisit them. And there are, of course, many other great books besides. Now, we know that everyone who completes the 4-year program will continue their liberal education in one form or another. And we hope very much that you, friends and family, will therefore continue to share these graduates with us, and with any luck, they will share you with us as well. Now, I'm going to welcome to the podium the first of our 3 student speakers, Kristen Langton.
Dean Green, Director Eisenman, Chair Chaffetz, instructors, fellow graduates, friends, and family, good morning. So 4 years ago, we set forth on a pretty intensive journey through the Graham School's basic program. Why did we come? Certainly not for credentials or career advancement. Maybe it was a long-held desire to read the classics, or a longing for something richer than the daily grind, or a touch of madness. Today, as we celebrate this ending, perhaps we can pause and ask, did we reach our goal? Yes, we can say we've read the books, but I've come to see that one of the great achievements of the great books is their quiet power to take hold of us, to move us beyond a checklist mentality, and to help us ask the kind of questions that help us reimagine our goals. I am a wife and stay-at-home mother, and I never expected that the august authors on that dense curriculum chart would speak to the quiet, persistent questions of family life. Aristotle reminded me that forming good habits is not just a matter of my own sanity. It also carries moral and civic weight. Plato suggested that nursery rhymes could be more than just charming. Homer confirmed that recounting our days over a good meal is deeply human. Machiavelli cautioned against ruling with too heavy a hand. Woolf encouraged space and quiet for creative pursuits. Shakespeare and Austen gently chided me when my love veered too close to meddling. And so many, from Sophocles to Pascal, from Job to Joyce, suggested that I carefully consider the limits of our best laid plans for parenting and make space for the mysterious and the sacred to be at play. For as various as these authors were, I was pleasantly surprised to find wisdom in them for my regular old daily life. And I imagine they spoke to each of you as well. I know, maybe Euclid didn't seem wildly relevant, but laboring over Euclid, or Aquinas, or Descartes, pick your poison here, at the very least formed in us the habits of focus and quiet resistance to distraction. In an anxious and frenetic world, the practice of regularly paying heed to the lasting and even maybe unchanging things grounded us and prepared us to live an examined life. I'll be honest, I could not have done this on my own. Fellow classmates, isn't it remarkable how connected we feel to one another through our shared reading, even though we didn't know how tall we were until today? But we did know who was likely to bring up Aristotle, or steer us back to the text, or challenge us with a skeptical question, or surprise us with their affinity for lyric poetry. From atheists to Catholics, from agriculturalists to attorneys, you came from so many different corners of life, and through dialogue, you pushed me toward ideas that I would never have reached alone. I'm deeply grateful for your friendship, full of ideas, careful reading, and plenty of good humor. For all of your brilliance, I think that we would all still be stuck, lost in a dark wood, without our Virgils to guide us. Dear instructors, thank you for sharing your expertise, for modeling close reading, and for practicing intellectual hospitality. Whether you challenged us with multi-step pre-class questions, shared your own musings live, admitted that you were baffled by a section, or celebrated our feeble insights with dancing lady emojis, we would have floundered without all of you. You taught us not just to read and discuss better, but to live more generously. And to our families, when others thought this venture was quixotic, you always believed it mattered and cheered us as we sallied forth every week. And to the little people of my house, thank you for your patience while I finished reading one more page, and your curiosity as you crawled under my desk to get a glimpse of the Zoom classroom. I hope this experience has testified to you that learning never ends and that asking big questions is always important. T.S. Eliot wrote in the Four Quartets, "The end of all our exploring will be to arrive at where we started and know the place for the first time." These 4 years may not have changed the outward contour of our lives, our jobs, our titles, our daily tasks. In that sense, we're right where we began. But perhaps we see it all anew, more mindful of our aims, more attuned to what is worthy, and to the great questions and ideas that reverberate even in our most ordinary days, but ripple out with great import. So, let's tell our friends and neighbors about the BASIC program and how good and important this kind of activity is for flourishing free humans. And if we are truly the Socrates-haunted graduates that we ought to be, let's be courageous enough to carry forward these habits of wonder, attentiveness, and honest dialogue into the folds of our daily lives with others, because we now know that the risk of doing so is a noble one.
Thank you, Kristen. Our next student speaker is Christopher Simons. Christopher.
Okay, so what is the basic program? And my answer is, it is better. Okay, doesn't sound like an answer. But the basic program is a live discussion with Homer, Plato, Virgil, Cervantes, Descartes, Darwin, Freud, and Morrison, and many others. And it takes place in the virtual cloud. As such, it has a striking similarity to what Socrates expects for his own afterlife. He alludes to this afterlife in the Phaedo from our final quarter, where he expects to join the company of good men. But he gives us the details in the closing of the Apology from our first quarter. What would one of you give to keep company with Orpheus and Musaeus, Hesiod and Homer? It would be a wonderful way to spend my time. What would one not give, gentlemen of the jury, for the opportunity to examine the man who led the great expedition against Troy, or Odysseus, or Sisyphus, or the innumerable men and women one could mention? It would be an extraordinary happiness to talk with them, to keep company with them, and examine them. The basic program is this extraordinary happiness. It is this extraordinary discussion with all these people who lived before and after Socrates, and all of us. So back to the basic program being better. It's better than watching a streaming video for a movie or a TV show, and I enjoy doing that. It's better than the New York Times, and I really like the New York Times. It's better than AI, and thankfully, everything we read, every play, poem, and book was written by a person, and all of our discussions came from people. It's better than social media, and I think the whole rest of the internet. Which means it may be the single best use of the internet to date. It's also better than most of academic life. I work as the math department chair at a university with over 20,000 students, and the discussions we have here, these extraordinary discussions, in the basic program do not happen there. These are discussions where everyone has actually done the reading on the same grade book. They're discussions where the goal is participating, and it isn't to win a debate or triumph in an argument. I'm really sure I've never got in saying, I'm going to beat Mason this time. But instead, the goal is to get some measure, even if it's small, of understanding and truth. I am sometimes amazed that the basic program isn't 10 times bigger, or 100 times bigger, or even 1,000 times bigger. The fact that, that we can fit in this room. But it's probably better that it's as small as it is, because nobody is here, because the basic program makes you popular. Nobody is here because they think the certificate is going to get you a brand new career. Everyone here is for knowledge and truth. These 3-hour discussions and their readings have been a focus of my weeks these past 4 years. When I'm waiting, driving, or sitting in another committee meeting, I can have internal discussions on, say, Tocqueville and Adam Smith. And I can even imagine what Jeffrey and we'll say Catherine would say in these discussions. I'm also pleased that the basic program has started spreading elsewhere in my life. After a few failed attempts, let me back up. I teach a capstone seminar for graduating math majors. They don't read these books. This spring, successfully for the first time, I assigned the middle third of the Meno, and that's that wonderful section where it's geometry and the doubling of the square, and the theory of recollection. And none of my students had read Plato before. And this spring, we had one of the most refreshing, longest, most participatory, and I'll say better discussions that we've ever had in 12 years of Mass Seminar. And sort of lastly, after hearing me speak about it for 3 years, my mother, she's 82 and she's recently lost one of her knees, essentially, started the BASIC program. And so she's been doing it for a year. And although she lives like 3,000 miles from me away, I can regularly travel back in time now and talk with her on video chat about the books that she's reading right now and that I read 3 years ago. And that, to me, is something quite special. So, to the people who work for the BASIC program and make it happen, I think you should know how much better it is and how much extraordinary happiness it creates. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Our next student speaker is Elise Tisch. Elise.
I feel so very privileged and fortunate to have shared this journey with you, my classmates and my instructors. Together, we have traveled a lot. We've been to Greece, Rome, Russia, Spain, Germany, France, England, Ireland, our own USA, the Garden of Eden, and to hell and back 3 times. We have considered poetry, drama, science, economics, geometry, history, psychology, and of course, philosophy. I am going to mention what I hope are all of our sections instructors by name because they were all so very important. And I hope I didn't leave anyone out. David Shiner, Stephen Hall, Cynthia Roots, Adam Rose, Zoe Eisenman, Michael Jones, Noah Chaffetz, Amy Thomas Elder, Mikhail Vasilopoulos, who I hope I pronounced right, Jonathan Ulyat, Jacqueline Victor, Eva Fernandez, Austin Walker, Simon Friedland, the late Claudia Trout, and Kendall Sharp, our alpha for Amino and Omega for Phaedo. We were lucky to have him bookending us with Plato. All have been just as supportive and as kind as Dante's Virgil. For myself, I could not have gotten through many of these texts, much less understood them, without their skilled guidance, along with the tremendous insights and connections made by my classmates. I am so glad we did make it through all these books because the texts themselves and our discussions have enriched my life. I have better conversations with my husband, who actually remembers what he read in undergrad. And bigger picture, the BASIC program has given me new perspectives on the world. In a recent book review, Tia Miles notes, quote, "The power of the humanities to expose and confront one of our species' deepest tensions, the tendency towards tyranny set against the yearning for freedom." Sharing these texts, these stories of how people relate to the earth and to the stars, to the divine, and most importantly, to each other, helps me move forward with hope that our species is going to carry on, continuing to question and expanding our answers to make sense of the world and of ourselves. I have thoroughly enjoyed this journey, and I am sad that it has come to an end. But our journey and its end have a much lower body count than many of the texts that we studied. Instead of a tragic death or a bloody battlefield, we are leaving the BASIC program open to more adventures, to engage in books, in society, and in life in a richer and deeper way. And for that, I am most grateful.
Thank you, Elise. Our next speaker is basic program instructor Jacqueline Victor. Jacqueline.
Hi, everyone. So I just want to say, first of all, that today's graduation is very special for me because this graduating class was the first class I ever taught in the basic program 2 years ago. So if you read Don Quixote with me, thank you for introducing me to the program. I will never forget Bill telling me how much he hated that book on the very last day of class. So I loved it. Okay. So I want to start by saying today is a day of celebration for you. It's a celebration of a real accomplishment of having dedicated 4 years to the study of texts, often quite difficult texts, that have in many ways shaped our individual and collective lives. And for me, it is a real moment of gratitude to be able to share this celebration with you. I want to think a little bit about what the basic program is and what a liberal education is. So a liberal education is at its heart an education for freedom. The word liberal has at its root the Latin liber, meaning free, and it is an education that presupposes the ability to think freely, to act freely, and it is an education that traces the long arc of ideas and histories that have led up to our current notion of what freedom is. In both its intellectual and political sense. So in the first year, you read Herodotus, and while we can derive all sorts of lessons from that kind of eclectic text, I hope that you will remember it as a foundational document for the value of self-governance, as expressed by the Athenians in the Greco-Persian Wars. One thing we learned from Herodotus is that this viewpoint was not inevitable. To many Greeks, if you remember, it made more sense to submit to the fairly easy rule of the Persians, to Medes, than to risk one's life and city fighting them. To argue for self-governance meant to take a consequential and risky stance on the basis of the inherent value of a certain kind of freedom. This last quarter, you read the Declaration of Independence, another document claiming the right to self-governance, with its famous statement that we hold these truths to be self-evident. After 4 years in the basic program, the first thing you know to do is to wonder at how a truth can possibly be self-evident. I have to think that Socrates would have loved to ask us some questions about the Declaration of Independence. But of course, what this statement contains is a whole history of ideas that culminate in being able to say something like all men are created equal is a self-evident truth. A liberal arts education thus gives us a shared language for talking about the ideas that shape our individual, our collective, our political identities. And if we lose sight of this language, then the history that has shaped us is still there, but we will no longer be able to identify what is contained in the ideas that seem to us to be self-evident. And with that, we lose our ability to meaningfully dialogue about those ideas. This language is far too important to relegate to serious study between the ages of 18 and 22, or to the walls of a college classroom. It is our common property. And like any language, we become more fluent in it over time, with experience, with practice, and through conversation. But you may now be thinking back on everything you've read over the past 4 years and finding that this arc from Herodotus to the Declaration of Independence doesn't, in fact, quite capture the depth or even the spirit of your experience. Rather than notions of freedom, perhaps what you most remember are moments like the description of the shield of Achilles, with its moving depiction of the full cycle and breadth of human life. Or perhaps, like me, you're so stunned by the opening 3 lines of Dante's Inferno that you have to put down the book after reading them and walk around with them in your head. And I'm just going to cite them because this is my chance to cite them in public. Midway in the journey of our life, I came to myself in a dark wood, for the straight way was lost. Those are my favorite 3 lines in the whole basic program. So one of the real gifts of the great books is that they both underlie our collective existence and speak to us intimately as individuals. It is the scope of this experience that illuminates the value of human cultural production and the intellectual freedom to engage with it. So if you think back on where this program began, it began in a seminar with questions about the individual's relationship to law, justice, the state, in Antigone, Crime and Punishment, the Apologia, and Crito, and in the tutorial with Plato's Meno, which you will never escape the Meno, it's going to keep coming back, with the question, ostensibly, right, of whether or not virtue can be taught, but which, of course, becomes an exploration of the nature of knowledge. And you may recall that while Meno struggles to even define virtue, Socrates is presented with a paradox about how we can inquire into things we do not know. So famously, this paradox opens the way for an account of knowledge as recollection, leading to concepts of forms and the immortality of the soul. But I've always been most struck by Socrates' more pragmatic response to the paradox, when he says, "I do not insist that my argument is right in all other respects, but I would contend, at all costs, in both word and deed, as far as I could, that we will be better men, braver and less idle, if we believe that one must search for the things one does not know, rather than if we believe that it is not possible to find out what we do not know and that we must not look for it." So it is this belief in the value of inquiry or seeking that is at the heart of what you've accomplished in the basic program and that animates what we call the great books. It's present in Herodotus' use of the word historia, meaning inquiry, but we also find it more intimately, for example, in St. Augustine with his evocation of the restless heart. When I began my own reading life, what I found in great books was an ongoing conversation, and that conversation was a response to an inner part of myself that might be the truest part of myself, and yet the most difficult to articulate and the most difficult to share with others. It has been the absolute pleasure of my intellectual life, and I do really mean that, to find a real living community of people with whom to share this conversation. And I hope that all of you here today will be able to continue that conversation with one another, because one of the real gifts and strengths of the basic program, as I'm sure you've recognized, is that it is a community. It is a very active community, and that does not end at this graduation. It's a testament to the University of Chicago that its programs in adult education made up one of its 3 foundational divisions, now known as the Graham School. And we're proud that the basic program of liberal education for adults will celebrate its 80th birthday next year. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for being part of the ongoing history of this program. Congratulations on getting through 4 years of texts that are basic only in the sense that they are foundational. And I hope on that note to see you in an alumni class in the future. Thanks.
At this point, I'm going to call up our graduates when we get into place. Are we all set? All right. So you can come up, collect your certificate from Zoe Eisman or from the dean, and have a photo. Is that right? All right. Jeffrey Berry. Congratulations, Jeff. Mason Bryan. Deborah Burnett. Mike Catalano. Is Mike here? Mike might be on Zoom. Isa Celovic. William Croft will also be on Zoom. There he is. Hi, William. Congratulations. Michael Cusick. Congratulations, Michael. Paul Farthing. Is Paul with us? Nope. Edward Gramling. There he is. Kathleen Hennessy. All right. Bill Higgins. She got her revenge. Richard Hundreiser. Don't forget that. Mary Lou Lager. Our dean is such a pro at this. Kristen Langton. Belle Lerner. Congratulations, Belle. Natalie Lyons Donaway. There you go. Karen McConomy, who might not be here. Alberta McFarlane. Alberta here? Nope. There's Alberta. I don't know if she can see us. Jagoran Mukherjee, who is also not here. I don't know if he's on too. Okay. Karen Merle. Brian Penix. Brian might be on Zoom. Marty Price. Barbara Quilty. Alyssa Rulo. Catherine Sanders. Barbara Schoenfield. Christopher Simons. Congratulations, Christopher. Eric Scamser. Congratulations, Eric. My pleasure. Well done, well done. Vesna Stelzer. Did the double. Elise Tisch. Mary Trong. Oh, we got more. Robert Wenger. Who is... Hi, Bob. Congratulations, Bob. Krista Young. And a man who I'm sure is used to being last at these things, Chuck Zumbrun. Congratulations, Chuck. We are all set. Thank you. At this point, I would like to call up Lisa Scalisi, our Director of Advancement.
Good morning, everyone. It is an honor to stand before you today to celebrate the basic program class of 2025. On behalf of myself and the entire Graham School team, let me begin by offering my heartfelt congratulations to each of you and welcome you to our alumni community. Completing the basic program is a remarkable achievement, one that speaks to your intellectual curiosity, your commitment to growth, and your belief in the enduring power of ideas. Over the past 4 years, you've not only engaged with some of the most profound texts in history, you've also done the harder work of listening, questioning, and challenging both the authors and each other. In doing so, you formed a learning community built on mutual respect and the pursuit of understanding, one that we at the Graham School deeply admire. You have all left your mark on this community, and we are grateful. As you reflect on your time in the program, I hope you carry forward the joy of discovery, the friendships forged, and the questions that remain. You are now part of a special alumni community, one that continues to explore, discuss, and learn together through alumni sequences, lectures, and events. We hope you will join us for the Modern Tradition Alumni Sequence this autumn, or consider engaging through our myriad offerings in the Graham School course catalog. I encourage you to explore upcoming events, including the Liberal Arts and Society Symposium, coming up on September 5th. And as university alumni, you may also enjoy access to UChicago libraries, benefits at local hotels, and cultural institutions, among other offerings. So while this is a moment of conclusion, it is just as much a beginning. The path of lifelong learning is open before you, and we hope to see you again soon, whether in the classroom, at a lecture, or simply in conversation. Congratulations again on this extraordinary milestone. Thank you.
and Dean of the Graham School, Seth Green.
Well, I want to start by adding my hearty congratulations to the class of 2025. Woo! Much of what I was planning to say has wonderfully been said and said better. And so I'll be a little off the cuff here, but I want to draw on a few themes as I just think about the beautiful remarks from our students and our instructor. I want to start by saying how truly fortunate we are to have the greatest instructors in the world teaching in this program. And I want to call out a few specific themes I heard in the remarks that I thought were so perfect in telling why our instruction is so special. And Kristen, it starts with you. You use the term intellectual hospitality. And I think that's one of the things that is so differentiated about this program, that we have the deepest intellects who are trained here with PhDs and who know these texts so genuinely and rigorously. And what they really believe is that the best way to get to know them better is to be on this journey with people from all walks of life. And I have to tell you, sitting in an incredible institution like this one, and I'm so proud of the Nobel Prizes we win here and the many other ways that UChicago improves in so many ways on our society and adds to it, that one of the things that sometimes can happen is there can be an exclusivity to the way that we treat that knowledge. And the reason I loved your words, intellectual hospitality, is because for me, hospitality means inviting people in and welcoming them and having them join your world and meeting them where they are and letting them feel a part of that. And I think what is so gifted about this program is it brings the most rigorous and brightest into a room where their aim is to bring everyone else in with them and to welcome them from all backgrounds into this great tradition in the _D democratic ideal. And I just think that is so special. And it's the reason that, to Chris's observation, we are able to be the single best use of the internet. And so I just want to say to our instructors, thank you. You are a gift. And as you heard this morning, it is a gift that inspires so many people to live more examined lives. So I want to just echo the immense gratitude. I also want to talk about why this experience is so important right now. So there are at least two massive shifts happening in society that I think speak to why these texts, which are timeless and which have been enduring in their value, may have special value in this moment. And the first, I think, is a very exciting challenge, and there are many really wonderful possibilities, but it is a challenge, do not be fooled, which is that we are on the cusp and engaging now in many ways in an artificially intelligent world. And what that means is that algorithms can put together knowledge in faster ways than we can, and that we are in many ways seeing a question mark about how humanity and machine coexist in this new narrative. And while there are immense possibilities, and we see them all across this campus, people using this technology to help find cures for cancer, there are also big questions about what does being human mean in a world where machines can do many of the things that we've associated distinctly with humanity. And I think one piece of that question has to be enduring the timeless texts that have answered over time and space as technology has massively changed since Plato and Aristotle's time with what makes us human, why does that matter, and how do we continue. And I think one of the pieces that becomes more important than ever is the ability to have judgment, because information is now abundant, it's algorithmically searchable, but knowing what to trust, why it matters, how to have the courage to know when you want to stand up for an ethical belief, those are all things that are deeply subjective. And they're rooted in people learning from others' experiences and taking that knowledge to heart. And so I think that individuals who go through a liberal education in this moment are better set up to help us navigate what is going to be one of the epic opportunities and challenges of our society. The other challenge I would describe as less exciting as a challenge, and maybe more of an exhausting one, which is that truth is genuinely under threat. And this has been a decades-long spiral as information systems have changed, and we've become more reliant on 140 words than on 140 characters. 140 words is now the long-form version. And so that has really led to a world in which it is hard to have deep thought, and where there really is a world, cynically, that does not necessarily seek or see truth as one of the goals. And I think that when you return to these texts, there's something very optimistic and inspiring about realizing that across all time and space, people have had some of the same evils within us or some of the same questions, and yet what we've done is we've tried to hold ourselves to a better person, and that seeking culture that comes out of that. And there are these forks in the road, and we can decide whether to seek or whether to take for the idea that we don't know the answer as an invitation not to try to answer. And so I think that this process in this time is especially meaningful for everyone. And you, as people that have gone through this journey, can inspire everyone around you that a truth-seeking culture, which is the core of any university setting, remains as vital today as it ever has been, and indeed more so because of the changes in the way that information and knowledge are shaped. So while this is a celebration and it is about the joy, and we heard so much of that, I also just want to call to the broader context in which the celebration occurs and how vital and vibrant what you're doing is, not just hopefully for yourselves and your own learning, but for the society that we live in. And with that, I will just shamelessly mention one more time that journey never stops, and that we really do want to be an intellectual home. So you've heard this story, unless you're under a rock over the last 4 years. We are one of the founding divisions of this university, and the reason is that when we were founded, we believed that learning should be across all ages and stages of life. And even back to the founding documents, there was a belief that life experiences enhances your ability to read these great books. And so as much as we wanted them for our 18-year-olds, there was something very special about, in those days, the middle-aged 35-year-old in 1890 also engaging with these texts. And so we hope that you see this truly as a beginning, and that we can be an intellectual home for you over the course of many chapters, because our vision is that it keeps getting deeper as you go further into these texts. And I'll just close by saying one of the many joys of my work here is that I get to talk about all of you. And one of the stories I kind of chide my fellow deans about is that I notice among the other schools here, their students compete to see how quickly they can get out of those units. So, I went through the college in 3.5 years, and I got my PhD. And I say to all of them, I don't know what's wrong with your schools. Because at my school, the competition is people compete to see how long they can be there. I've been in the Graham School for 20 years, and I'm not stopping until the last day. And I say, there must be something right about what we're doing. People like it here, and they want to stay. But on a serious note, yes, that deserves a round of applause. On a serious note, we really do hope that we can be part of your lifelong vision. And I'll just say that one of the things that we believe in is a constant growth mentality. So we also want to hear from you. What do you want to see in the future of this community? You may be aware of this just by seeing all of the news about the school, but we're nearly 4 times the size that we were from a budget and other perspective 3.5 years ago. And so this is a universe that, with our silver tsunami and some other changes, is growing very rapidly. And we've made it this far because we've heard from you what you want to see. And so we really look forward to continuing that conversation. With that, I want to make sure that I invite up what will be, I'm told by our head of marketing, the first time that we have taken a full picture of all of our graduates. And so I hope you will, just for a moment, if you're a graduate, come up to the front, because we are going to set a new standard this year that we put you all together in a picture. And for those who are with them, in a minute, we will go outside and have drinks and celebration. Thank you all again.